Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for Week 15 of this NFL season. Before I dive into my waiver wire portion of this video, I do want to say, guys, I am a firm believer where you shouldn't be picking up guys off the waivers to play in the first round of the playoffs. You should be playing the guys that got you there. So I wouldn't really be necessarily trying to pick up these guys to insert them in my lineup. But if you did need these guys at positions, there weren't any major injuries, and maybe you picked up Garendo, who's probably not going to play Thursday night. You might need a running back. I do have a running back suggestion that you could possibly play this week, but just before I dive into this, like I said, I'm a bit, and I'll reiterate this tomorrow. My start sits. I'm a big believer in playing the guys that got you to the playoffs. With that being said, I'm gonna dive into my waiver wire portion as I've always done this whole season. These players, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there is a good chance they're available in your league. My quarterback out of the week, again, I don't think you really want to pick him up to play him because there weren't like any major quarterback injuries. But maybe if you're in a super flex league and you don't really like your second quarterback, this could be a decent streaming option. Aaron Rodgers, surprisingly, who had his best game of the season. He's available in 66% of the leagues. This past weekend, he threw for 339 yards and had a touchdown against the Dolphins. And the reason why I have him listed is strictly because of his matchup. He's going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have allowed the second most points per game against the quarterback position. Again, you shouldn't be picking up Aaron Rodgers to play over the quarterback that got you to the playoffs. There weren't any major injuries to the position, so this is just more of a suggestion. Maybe if you've been streaming quarterbacks and you don't have a reliable quarterback and you still made the playoffs, or if you're like in a super flex league and you kind of have a shaky second quarterback that has a rough matchup this weekend. My running back out of the week, like I mentioned, you could possibly play him this week. Maybe if you were picked up Garendo and you're counting on him because you lost CMC, you lost Jordan Mason, right? But the second-year running back for Jacksonville, Tank Bigsby, he is available in 54% of the leagues. Right now. This past weekend, he had 18 rushes for 55 yards and a touchdown. He also had one reception for 7 yards on 2 targets. What I like about it, he had at least 15 plus touches, and I do think there's some potential value for the playoffs for Tank Bigsby. You guys might have heard me say this before. Usually at this point, even though more than likely Doug Peterson's going to get fired in Jacksonville after the season's over. Usually at this point of the season, it's very smart for coaching staffs that when they know their team's out of the playoffs to kind of gear up their young players for the following season. More than likely, I think Travis Etienne, I think his rookie contract's up after the season. There was trade rumors that they were ready to move on from him, so I wouldn't be surprised if Travis Etienne Jr. is on a different team next season. So with that being said, that's why I'm not surprised that Tank Bigsby outtouched Travis Etienne this past weekend. They're probably going to be gearing up Tank Bigsby to potentially be their lead running back for the 2025 season. Again, you don't want to pick up Bigsby because they are going against the Bucks. They're about middle of the pack against the running back position. I don't think you want to pick up Bigsby and play him over a running back that got you there. But if you played Garendo last week and you're counting on Garendo for the playoffs, I would play Bigsby over one of these other running backs that are going to play for San Francisco on Thursday night, just because of my educated guess. I think we're going to see the Shanahanigans of the past where he likes to split the touches between his backfield. I don't think there's going to be one lead guy that's going to be running the ball on Thursday night for San Francisco. So if you were in that position, I would try to be getting Tank Bigsby, and I'd put him in my lineup over one of the San Francisco backs I'll be playing on Thursday night. My wide receiver ad of the week. This is kind of like a handcuff option for maybe Mike Evans in case he gets hurt during the playoffs. But the rookie wide receiver for the Bucks, Jalen McMillan, he's available in 95% of the leagues. This past weekend he had 4 receptions for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets. He's actually gotten at least 7 targets in 3 of his last 5 games. The Bucks are playing the Chargers this week. This is a middle of the pack matchup for him as far as points per game. But again, you don't want to pick up McMillan to play him. This is more of like maybe you have some questionable wide receiver depth and you need some insurance in case injuries were happen. If you have questionable depth and you are a fantasy football manager, Mike Evans, I would pick up McMillan as a handcuff option just in case Evans were to get hurt during your playoff run. I've never really, moving on my tight end position, I've never really suggested a tight end handcuff, but I'm going to do it this week. Noah Gray, the second tight end for the Chiefs, he's available in 79% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 4 receptions for 26 yards on 5 targets. Now, he's actually gotten 5+ targets in the last 4 games. He's actually a piece of their passing attack. Mahomes is going to him during these games. So if you're like a Travis Kelce manager and you have like very solid wide receivers or running backs that you're not going to like swap out for maybe an okay bench option, and you have Travis Kelce, maybe you pick up Noah Gray to put on your bench just in case Kelce were to get hurt. And there's another reason why I'm suggesting Gray for Kelce managers is just because as of right now, heading into this week, the Chiefs have 1 loss. The Bills have 3. The Bills are playing the Lions this weekend, right? That's a tough matchup. They can go to 4 losses. So it's very possible over these next 2 weeks that the Kansas City Chiefs could lock up the number 1 seed by the fantasy championship. Now, normally teams, even if they lock up the number one seed, normally they're not going to not play starters until that last week of the season. So I'm not saying Travis Kelce wouldn't play in week 17, the fantasy championship match, but wouldn't you not be surprised if they have the number 1 seed, they just kind of limit Travis Kelce that week, and you probably would want Noah Gray instead of Travis Kelce if they have the number 1 seed and you make your fantasy championship. That's kind of why I also want a suggestion for the Travis Kelce managers out there. My flex out of the week, I'm definitely the guy that had Breece Hall in a couple leagues. One of them I did pick up Braylon Allen and played him this week, so I was definitely a surprise of the other rookie running back for the Jets. Isaiah Davis, he's available in 89% of the leagues. He had 10 rushes for 40 yards and 1 touchdown. What I like about it is he's involved in the passing attack, so that gives him value in like PPR leagues. He had 3 receptions for 27 yards on 6 targets. Now, we don't know what's Breece Hall's status. I know their interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich said they don't plan on shutting him down for the rest of the season, but who knows? What if he tweaks his injury again? What if he's not good for this week? Because if Breece Hall cannot play this week, I do like Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis as options for your lineups, because the Jaguars are also allowing the 2nd most points per game to the running back position as well. Moving into my streamable defenses, as always, guys, these defenses, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there's a good chance they're available in your league. My number 1 streaming option, which I think you could actually do 2 weeks in a row, I do like the Atlanta Falcons against the Raiders. More than likely, Desmond Ridder, the actually former Falcons quarterback, is likely going to be starting in that game on Monday night. So that's why I really like the matchup. You got the 3rd string quarterback going against already an already bad offense, right? And then when you look at some stats, the Raiders have allowed they're tied for the 4th most sacks allowed. And then what I also like about it is they have the most giveaways in the NFL. So there's that potential for those fumbles, those pick sixes, which can really rack up your points for a streaming defense. And then what I like about if you pick up the Falcons to stream them this week, they play the Giants in week 16. So you can stream them the next 2 weeks in the playoffs. My number 2 streaming defense, I don't really have any stats where they came in the top 5 that I like to lean on, but it's mainly the quarterback situation. I like the Commanders against the Saints. Commanders are available in 76% of the leagues right now, and it's strictly because Derek Carr fractured something. I think he fractured his left hand. He's likely done for the season, so it's either going to be Jake Haener or it's going to be Spencer Rattler. I'm willing to bet on one of those 2 guys that the Commanders can find a way to force those young quarterbacks into mistakes, try to force them into those sacks, and hopefully you can get maybe a pick 6 or a fumble recovery as well. My number 3 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Jets against the Jaguars. The Jets are available in 57% of the leagues right now. Mainly this one is a high ceiling play if you wanted to go after it. Jacksonville is tied for the 5th most giveaways. Their offense is extremely limited with Mac Jones as their quarterback, so I don't really see them putting up a lot of points against the Jets. I actually think the Jets are going to win this week finally, but yeah, mainly just because it's Mac Jones leading this offense. where their head coach is basically walking on a platter. It's his last few weeks at the job, so who knows what this offense is going to look like on Sunday. I would be on the side that it's going to look pretty bad, in my opinion. Then my number 4 streaming defense, they actually got a lot of good stat points, but they are such a bad defense that's why I don't have them ranked higher on this. But if you wanted to roll the dice on them, I would completely understand it. Bengals against the Titans. The Bengals are available in 66% of the leagues. And like I said, it's the stats that really why you can lean on them, I think. The Titans, they have allowed the 3rd most sacks in the NFL this season, so there's that potential for you to rack up points with the sacks. They're tied for the 2nd most giveaway, so there's that potential for a fumble return or a interception return for a touchdown, which increases your points. And then what increases your floor if you wanted to stream the Bengals is the Titans are only scoring 17.5 points per game. That is the 3rd fewest in the NFL. And we'll have to see because this Browns offense is hit and miss, with Jameis. I do apologize. It sounds like there is an emergency situation going on. So I either had a cop or a fire truck just drive by my place right now. With that being said, there's a possible where you could potentially stream them in week 16. Depends on what this Cleveland offense looks like this week, but they do play the Browns in week 16, which we know Jameis is good for a pick 6 or 2 on any given Sunday. My number 5 streaming defense, they kind of have not. This could have been ranked higher, but the Cardinals haven't really came through for me quite yet as a streaming option. And then the Patriots offense has been playing better with Drake May at the quarterback position, but there are some good stat points where you could stream them. First of all, this is a home game for Arizona, which I like that. And then when you look at the stats for New England, they're tied for the 4th most sacks allowed, so there's potential for you to get points from the sacks. And there's a little bit of a higher floor too, because even though their offense has been improved with Drake May, they're still only scoring 17 points a game, which is the 2nd fewest in the NFL. And I wrote this down, but I don't know. The Panthers have been playing pretty good ball over the last month, but there's a potential where you could stream them 2 weeks in a row because the Cardinals do play the Panthers in week 16. So yeah, those are my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for this first round of fantasy football playoffs. Obviously, if you guys were watching this video, you made it to the playoffs, so congratulations. You'll get my starts and sits tomorrow night. But as I always do, if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button. If you have not subscribed or followed me on my social media platforms, please do. I'm mainly on X, but you can also find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And then I just really want to wish you guys a great night, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this. Peace out.